every minute are physically abused.
There are more than 20,000 phone calls to domestic violence hotlines each day.
1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been victims of domestic violence in their lifetime.
Most of you watching this video are probably already pretty familiar with what the topic is. However, if you are unsure of exactly what it is, domestic violence is defined as violent or aggressive behavior within the home, typically involving the violent abuse of a spouse or partner.
And even if you are familiar with the concept of domestic violence, you may not know that there are 3 specific types: physical, emotional, and financial. According to the Amend Workbook for Ending Violent Behaviors, this is what they are.
Physical abuse is pretty self-explanatory. It involves any physically aggressive behavior, depriving one of physical needs, or threatening another person. Some examples of physical abuse could be punching, hitting, or depriving one of food or water.
Verbal and emotional abuse are both similar in the way that they are used to exploit another's vulnerability, character, or insecurities. For example, telling somebody they're not good enough or they're worthless.
Lastly, there's financial or economic abuse. This form of abuse is a way for someone to control the victim through manipulation of economic resources, and this could be like not allowing them to have access to money.
Now that we know what domestic violence is, the question arises: what could influence a person to act in this way?
According to our research, there are several things that can contribute to the abuser's actions, one of those being the environmental factors during his or her childhood. This could include if they were abused in the past, where and with who they grew up with, and if they were raised with siblings.
In fact, it says on the Office for National Statistics that 36% of people who were abused in the past will abuse again in the future.
Another factor that often causes domestic violence to proceed is the rationalization of the abuse. ThoughtCatalog.com says that a common abusive technique is something called gaslighting. This is where the abuser convinces the victim that the abuse they're experiencing is not real.
Throughout the book I read, A Child Called It, the main character was brutally abused by his mother. She would beat him, deny him food, and treat him as if he was not a member of the family. He was forced to steal food in order to survive, live in the garage, and was even stabbed by his mother for not cleaning fast enough. She would also emotionally abuse him by forcing him to say, "I'm a bad boy," and by not abusing any of his other siblings. He often used rationalization by blaming the abuse on the alcohol his mother drank and by saying she used to not be like this, so he really must be a bad boy. Another thing he blamed the abuse on was his father. His dad was always away on work and never showed appreciation for his mother, causing her to lash out.
Another factor that influences or even normalizes domestic violence is social or cultural situations. In some countries, it is considered normal to beat your wife if she does something considered punishable. For example, in Kenya, there are no specific laws against abuse. If a case is reported, they will often refrain from investigation, viewing it as a private family matter. This goes to show that domestic violence is prevalent all around the world.
A common misconception is that mental illness can cause domestic violence. For example, some believe that if one has bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, PTSD, and narcissistic personality, it leads a person to be more prone to abuse. However, this is not the case. There is nothing in the DSM-5 that says mental illness solely causes a partner to be abusive in a relationship, because they are 2 separate entities.
In the book I read, Difficult Women, one of the stories told consisted of a man who sexually abused 2 young girls. In the case, he pleaded mentally insane, and while he did not get off the hook completely, his term did get shortened. This goes to show that mental illness is often used as an excuse for violent behavior.
In conclusion, we feel that this is a very important topic to discuss because it is so common in the world we live in. It may even be happening to you or someone you know.
Please always be aware of the dangers of domestic violence and never be afraid to report anything you see or experience. Thank you for watching.